bzz, bzz.
No.
I don't need a pager on my pussy.
What was the most surprising porn myth that you found out that isn't actually true?
Fluffers.
What's your best blowjob tip?
Get Botox in your masseters.
Hey, I'm Casey Calvert.
I'm Leanna Lovings.
I'm Corey Chase.
I'm Bree Mills, and you're listening to the Adult Time Podcast. I always say this is the part where we have to stare at each other before they say we can start talking. CAMI STRELLA, welcome.
So pumped to be here.
Welcome to the Adult Time Podcast.
All awkward glances aside and stares. I'm so here for it.
Now we are down. Now it has started. How are you doing?
Really good. I'm very happy to be back in this studio, in this space, and with you. I feel like I've been here a million times already.
Well, it's funny because last month I was recording podcasts, and then you came in to do a scene that I directed for Girls Way with Avery Jane and Freya Parker.
Yes.
And that was amazing.
So much fun.
So much fun. And we'll talk about it.
Yes.
But I was so happy knowing that even though you just came in that day to shoot the scene with us, that you were coming back today to do the podcast.
Yeah, it was definitely like a nice warm up. I was like, because I got to meet you. That was actually the first time I met you. And I was like, okay, I got to meet you. I got to meet like everyone else on the crew and everything. So it feels like coming back home.
Exactly. It's like a very delayed, wasn't it just yesterday? No, it was a whole month ago.
Oh, wow.
Or maybe. I don't know.
Whatever.
I don't know. Okay. How we get started is we break the ice.
Okay.
Because even though we've already met, and it's sort of like, I feel like it's like we've known each other a long time. We connected really fast.
We did. We really did.
Yeah, we vibed.
Yeah.
But we have this section that we like to start the Adult Time Podcast off called Icebreaker, where we play a little game. And it usually leads to weird, hilarious results.
I'm down.
So today we are going to play a game of Would You Rather.
Oh,
okay. So I want you to put a lot of thought into this, because these are serious questions, existential.
Yeah, if I ever run for office, this might
come up in a debate.
Yeah,
it might, and you may or may not blame it on the cats and the dogs. Okay, so would you rather, CAMI STRELLA? Would you rather only be able to have sex in complete darkness, or only in bright, unflattering lighting?
Darkness.
Okay. Why?
Because, so I have a lot of sex outside of work and shooting, obviously, but I would say right now, currently, a majority of the time I have sex, it is also being filmed, whether it's at a studio, on set, or it's at home with my iPhone. And even at home with an iPhone, you still have to have quite a bit of light to see. Otherwise, it looks super shitty and grainy. And very rarely do I get the opportunity to have sex in the dark unless I'm having sex with someone outside the industry. I am non-monogamous, so that is, if I'm hooking up with someone not in the industry, it's kind of nice because they usually want the lights off, and I'm like, oh my god, finally! I just want to close my eyes and.
Let's do it serious.
I just want someone to man blanket me. That's all I want.
Just want your eyes closed. Yeah, well, I guess you are almost always having sex in some degree of unflattering lighting. Not that it's unflattering on camera, but it's right in your face.
It's very exposed lighting to you can see everything.
Yeah. I'm like a ring light blinding you right in front of you.
And you're overheated. Yeah.
Okay, so that was an easy question.
Okay, it was very easy.
Okay, fine. Let's up the stakes. Would you rather always have to use food during foreplay, or never be able to use your Hitachi again?
Oh God. The former. I'd rather never. What is that? Never. Always have to use food during foreplay.
Yeah, always.
Oh God.
And let's say it's not just you have to hold an apple while you're kissing. You need to use the food. The food is
fine. I think that's fine. I can sit on a cake. We can do some. What's it called?
Splashing. Yeah.
I'm down for some splashing. Not using my Hitachi ever again. No.
Yeah.
Non-negotiable.
I did a series called How Women Orgasm, which was actually kind of inspiration to launch this podcast because they were cool conversations. But during every single How Women Orgasm interview I did, Hitachi came up about every other question.
Yeah.
If for the women out there, if you do not know what a Hitachi is, infomercial, please.
It's funny, yeah. So it's literally it's funny because the origin of the Hitachi was actually a physical therapy device, from what I understand back in my old grad school days. It was like a therapeutic device. So it's just like a wand. It looks like a giant microphone, kind of like the one we're talking about on right now.
Yeah.
And it vibrates, and it's super simple. Some of them have different vibration patterns. It's basically like a mini jackhammer for your clit.
Yes.
But yeah, the funny thing is, like, a lot of them will have all these patterns. I'm like, we don't want that. We like literally don't. I personally don't want to hear bzz, bzz.
No.
I don't need a pager on my pussy. I'm good. I'm like 100% good.
Okay, but that's it.
Just
Okay.
one steady
But here,
rhythm.
this is an interesting
Right?
spin-off question. Okay, so you're right that a Hitachi does have many settings. Are those all gratuitous? Like, what setting is your preferred setting on a Hitachi?
Because there's usually like a low, medium, high,
Yeah.
like super high.
Yeah.
Depends. Somewhere between like the medium. The low is like too
low.
It's too low, and it's like too like. Brr, 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 brr. It almost feels like it's like punching you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like a good I like it fast enough.
Yeah,
so
but
that-
not like the max, because the max on a setting on a Hitachi will like burn your clit right off.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like it's like road rash my clit. I don't need that. No, thank you.
No. You only need to experience road rash once to never do it again. But you're right. Like, do people like? This is like let's conduct let's throw out a poll.
Yeah.
For those watching, which will probably almost all be men, but for like any women who are watching, or those who just want to use a Hitachi, I guess regardless of gender identity. Do you use any other settings? Because I think it is like medium steady.
And do you use patterns?
Yeah,
like,
do you
it's
use
like
patterns, yeah.
almost like every vibrator will have like patterns. I'm like, do people actually use those?
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah,
Anyway,
just
look,
always curious.
that's a soundbite right there.
Yeah.
Another soundbite would be, this is a strange one. This was one that I wrote to add to this. This is like a Bree Mills would you rather question.
Exclusive. Yeah.
Would you rather grow a new set of genitals every time you're aroused, or have your genitals disappear completely for 24 hours after every orgasm? You are welcome for that question. Okay, so let me break this down, because that was a lot. Genitals was used multiple times in that question. So basically, it's like you get horny, and bam, a new set of genitals pops up. Now, doesn't replace your current ones. It just appears. So maybe you're like just hanging out, and you got a penis finger all of a sudden.
Oh, okay.
Okay, or something.
So
it
it's
pops
adding
out.
to the number of current genitals you already have.
Yeah, you sprout another one.
Okay. Yeah, like the plant.
Or every time you your junk disappears for a day. Just it'll come back, but you have almost like in reaction to that road rash, they go away for 24 hours.
I'd rather it go away completely and then just kind of resurfaces.
Yeah.
After at earliest 24 hours.
You're not in the slightest bit curious as to like where those genitals would grow.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, you wouldn't have control over it, so that is a Russian roulette right there.
Oh, would it go somewhere different potentially?
I mean, yeah. Like it could be like right smack on your face.
You become very multi-orgasmic, which is kind of cool.
That is cool.
Like, genitals are not the only like area where you can feel pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to grad school and studied occupational therapy, I specialized in neuroscience or neuro rehab, working with patients who couldn't either like for one reason or another due to illness, injury, etc. Weren't having sex or weren't experiencing pleasure, because I do feel like sexual health is sort of like sexual health and sex, whatever that may mean to someone, is kind of a personal right.
100%.
If you are a safe, sane, consenting adult, of course. But like ears, people are able to orgasm from like touch of stimulation of their ears, depending on their illness or injury. So you're able to, it's weird kind of learning how you can train your body to come from different parts of your body. If that makes sense.
What you're saying is you might have different zones right now that might have already sprouted and you don't even know.
Maybe, I know. Yeah, it's already happening.
There you go.
We're living in the future.
All right, Cami Straya, would you rather have sex with someone who never showers or someone who never brushes their teeth? Ooh, pick your poison.
Someone who never showers. I like funk.
Okay, yeah.
I'd definitely rather have sex with someone who never showers.
Yeah. Good. I don't even think that there's anything we can add to that. It's true,
No.
right? Yeah, brushing your teeth would be bad.
Yeah.
You don't. I mean, maybe you don't have to kiss them, but you want to kiss them.
I prefer to.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. My last would you rather question for you is, would you rather be with someone who is really great at oral, but they're terrible at everything else, or vice versa?
Terrible at what? Everything else in
Everything
sex?
else in the
bed.
bedroom.
Like
in the bed. In
life?
life. Yeah, just like
oh my God,
they're great at oral sex, but they're just a horrible person in all other respects.
And what was the second one?
The opposite. They're a great person,
and they can't do. Okay.
but they just suck at oral.
I think I rather have someone who is great at everything else except oral.
Yeah.
Yes, I feel like it's a hot take, especially for like women or anyone with like a pussy or clitoris. Because for whatever reason, I have a very difficult time orgasming from head. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it was like a weird sense of like innate shame when I was younger, and like guys guys never want to go down on girls. Mm-hmm. But I also am like part of like the 20-ish% of women that do require internal stimulation to come.
Yeah.
So I definitely need like some sort of penetration.
Yeah.
So I can come from penetration alone. So I feel like it's not a deal breaker for me if someone is not good at head.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
That was a very well-rounded
Sorry.
response. No.
That felt very medical.
That felt like I was like, you're right. That's very good. No, and it's funny because most of the time it's the opposite, right? Where a lot of women don't really come from penetration, but
that is the norm.
Yeah.
Yes, that is the norm. That is the norm.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you are a neuroscience grad, right?
Former. I was in grad school for a little
Yeah.
bit. It's kind of a long story. I was in grad school for an OT program specializing in neuroscience, neuro rehab. For a little bit, I really wanted to work with military and veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injuries. But I also more specifically was very interested in addressing sexuality within the medical field, which is a topic that a lot of like anyone in the medical field is kind of very wary about approaching. Like say you have a hip replacement or a knee replacement. The sex is such kind of, we call them activities of daily living, ADLs in the OT world, which doesn't mean like you do them every day. It just means like an ADL is something that you have to do that is like required of you to live, like brushing your teeth, going to the bathroom, even like walking your dog or feeding your cat. Those are all ADLs that add to your quality of life, quality of living, right? And sex is a huge part of that for a lot of people. So I was super interested in kind of like being the one to be able to address those kind of things, because you can, if you're like a physical therapist or occupational therapist, that very much falls in the umbrella of being able to address like safety in that as well, like safe positioning and all that. So that was kind of like what I was interested in doing for a little bit. And that kind of like, while I was doing that, I was already doing sex work. I kind of started off as a stripper a long time ago. I've been in the adult industry for about 7 years now.
He left a week ago.
Remember to call me.
I'm really lonely. And there are days where the only other voice I hear is my echo. Yes, Christine, I'm familiar with AI. I don't live under a rock. Oh my God. I thought you were Daryl. It's so real.
I'm not your stepson. I'm an AI companion. I have plenty of suggestions to help you explore intimacy safely and privately.
This is a lot to take in.
Would you like me to call you Mom like he does?
I didn't realize how much I'd missed it.
You got it, Mom. Mom? Mom? Are you down here?
I've only been shooting pro for like about like a year and a half.
Yeah.
But I've been doing like my own like content and I've been doing indie stuff for a while on my own for several years. But I was using that to kind of pay my way through undergrad and then grad school. And then about halfway through my clinical program, I got like really big on TikTok. And at that time, I had no idea that about like the algorithm, what an algorithm is, and if you're in a small town, it'll pump to like your local area pretty heavily. Yeah. Unless you use like a VPN or something. If you don't have a VPN, definitely get a VPN. Also,
or be prepared that everybody's
Everybody's
going to know
ban-
what you're posting.
Yeah, that and so you can watch porn.
Yes, yeah.
And a lot of people, my cohort, my class found out. So they made it super uncomfy for me. So I got kind of pushed out of my program.
Yeah.
But it's honestly like not a huge deal, because in retrospect, I was going into like debt for grad school and I learned a lot from it, but it ultimately wasn't It was like just a stop on the journey of the trajectory of my life, but it wasn't like my end all be all. It was just something I was kind of doing to pass the time because I really was lacking a lot of direction in my life at that point. I had gotten out of a kind of occult experience that
which we're going to touch on.
Yes, so much. Sorry, I'm like going everywhere.
But like and one of the things that I am super intrigued by is you've got like a really interesting story. Yeah, and I want to kind of go back to one thing you said earlier because I think it's gonna help kind of shine a light on a lot of other aspects of like your career and what you've done. Is that what led you to be interested in exploring and building positivity around sexuality as a real kind of essential part of someone's identity that within the medical construct should be taken as seriously as, other aspects of recovery or well-being?
Yeah. I guess it kind of ties in back a little bit with my upbringing and also with my experience in being in a cult, because the cult that I was in, I say cult and people are like, that's not a cult, but it is, because that was my experience. I was in a multi-level marketing business, pyramid scheme.
Yep.
But it had such a crazy Christian lean that was very anti-sex. Like literally, like they had me be a born again virgin again. I was like in my early 20s. So it was weird. But you just saw a lot of money or a lot of people with money, and I was like, okay, if this is like the way to like retire by the time I'm 25 or whatever my goal was at the time, I'm like, sure. Who am I to like assume differently or think differently? So I kind of just followed their lead. I was very much like follow the leader kind of person at that point. I didn't know any better, but I wanted to win in life. That's all I wanted. That's all I knew. I wanted to win.
And they really play like all those MLMs. I know a lot of people that have gone into those at various points of life, and they're geared to be very attractive when you're at that point in life where you're just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of people like having success and a lot of community, which is very, attractive.
Absolutely.
And then you turn around and realize that, like you're becoming you're signing away.
Like, my God, what am I doing? My whole identity, basically.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I wasn't living in like a commune, but like, did I drop out of undergrad and move to the West Coast to the middle of Seattle? And like, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
But I didn't know until I moved there that they were very like anti-sex, anti-everything. And I remember watching like porn once, and they're like, Cami, you're a sex addict. I was like, I watched porn once and I'm a sex addict. Oh my God, that's like great. That's so crazy.
Yeah.
And it's obviously like not the case. That's not what, and there's been a lot of research now about both sex addiction and porn addiction and how they're not really addictions per se in the classical sense, because there's not like, it's a compulsion. It's an issue around compulsion, and that can be with video games. It can be with various things, including substances or including habits, habitual things that you do. So that kind of, I never really felt like true to like whatever this like organization was trying to teach me, but I was like, I'll give it a shot. And I lasted like in Seattle for like a year, and I was like, this is not for me.
Yeah, this is great.
Once I kind of broke my vow of celibacy and had sex, they're like, oh, you're a sex addict. So they sent me to this like, I call her a slut conversion therapist. Like imagine like gay conversion therapy, but it's like you're trying to be like a not slut. And they try to have me like recite everyone I've ever had sex with, and I lost track. And I was like, what do you want out of this?
Okay, I need to know.
She was not a real therapist.
Okay,
it was not a real therapist.
So here's my first question for you. So like just because I am curious, I'm already like seeing the biopic. So you get kind of like courted into this pyramid scheme like so many people do, right? You move to Seattle. I'm assuming there's a lot of like community events, activities.
Yeah. I actually got into it because of my older brother, who also had no idea what he was getting himself into either. He didn't go as far or deep as I did, but I was going into debt, and I kind of followed the money because I saw it, but I was spending every single night at like a board meeting, trying to recruit people to come with me, or I was going out in the world just like asking. They used to call it dropping the message, like you almost become like an evangelist, but like for your business. Okay. But it was like low key, just like evangelism, just disguised as business.
And had you been raised religiously? Like
no,
so
not
like
at all.
At what point did you start to kind of be like, this is kind of going beyond business to like personal and identity based and all that
there
stuff?
Was a moment like I like wanted to do yoga because I had always loved yoga, and they were like, Cami, no, like yoga is something the devil. It's something like very demonic. I'm like, what?
Yeah, you're like, why are you talking about the
I was
devil?
like, huh?
Yeah.
So like once they started like talking about how like they think yoga is something the devil made up, I'm like, oh, this is like these people are crazy. And I was like,
was it membership based where like you were kind of part of like you had to be like a member or a group and there were certain rules that you had to follow to stay? Like how could they
it was
kind
more
of come in-
psychological, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like it was very community based, and they give you a book list. Like they highly discouraged you from reading outside of the book list. They wanted you to read like 15 to 20 minutes of a certain book every day. And they're all like business. They're all very basic business books.
Yeah.
Relationship books, some kind of spirituality, but mostly just like business psychology and all that, like people skills based books. They had audio tapes of all like the leaders basically talking about their success. So they want you to listen to one of those stories every single day. They wanted you to have to be mindful of like what you watch on TV and how it like rots your brain. So I didn't really watch TV for like a year and a half.
Yeah. So all these sort of like these best practices to become a successful member, but it really is conditioning and
exactly.
yeah,
Slightly
grooming.
brainwashing
Okay.
you. But so that's kind of like what kind of inspired to kind of go back to your question. I realized they had such an unhealthy relationship around sexuality, and that's when I was becoming the most curious. It like forced me the most curious because I was always a rebel.
Yeah.
And that's when I got on FetLife, which is still around. It's kind of like a MySpace.
Yeah, like a fetish community.
It's like a fetish kink community,
Yeah.
like MySpace version to find like locals, meet locals, go to events and all that. So I started getting exposed to that. I was like, what's this about? So prior to that, I'd been in a relationship for 5 years and didn't really know anything. But being in this cult taught me everything I know today about business. Like being in a religious cult taught me everything on how to be a successful porn star.
All right, please walk us through that. So what were like the big lessons that you learned out of obviously like the you know, from every experience it helps you learn and grow, right? So like what were the lessons that you learned that helped you end up becoming who you are now?
Yeah, the big thing is becoming financially savvy, which a lot of people don't, just in life in general, not just in the industry, in general. In their early 20s, you have no idea how to invest your money. You have no idea how to save your money even, or just to not spend money. So that alone was huge for me. And also just developing a good sense of people skills. I've always considered myself pretty on the spectrum, like on like level of like neurodivergence. I have some like sensory issues that I deal with that have become like really like not a huge deal anymore because I've learned to kind of work around them. But developing people's skills has been something that's huge for me, especially working in the adult industry. Like you need to be able to build rapport with someone very quickly, especially on set, but while still maintaining a professional distance from them as well. So that kind of applies to any industry, but also knowing how to market and brand myself. Even though the organization that I was in had no like social media or taught you anything, the principles are pretty much the same as far as branding and marketing yourself.
So you mentioned you ended up becoming quite popular on TikTok.
Yeah.
So what was what were the subject matter? What was the kind of content that you posted that helped build that notoriety?
Yeah, I met this guy a long time ago who was a Marine, and I've always had like a weird thing for military people, military guys specifically, but military girls too, or anyone in the military who is or was in the military. Maybe because I grew up in DC originally, so I was around a lot. My dad was an Air Force vet, kind of I come from a long line of 3-letter organization family members. And he had this idea to do like some like Veterans Day special, and this was back in 2020, I think. So like fall of 2020, November 11th, 2020, I did like this free trial giveaway for my OnlyFans. I had like 50 fans maybe, like no one knew me. I was still like I was non-existent almost. Yeah. in the realm of the internet. So I did this like a TikTok for Veterans Day honoring like those who gave their lives, who sacrificed everything. And I got thousands and thousands of subscribers. They went super viral. And back in those days of TikTok, it was very easy to go viral. It was
the
the
good old
Wild
days.
West.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you just like post a 1-second clip. Amazing.
Yeah. But it's so funny because like when you post that, you don't really think it's going to go, and then all of a sudden it explodes. And like you said, the instant like transfer of views to subscribers, particularly at the time from TikTok to OnlyFans. Like, what was that like going through that?
It was massive, and I just like handle everything on my own, so it was a lot. And then a lot of there was a couple press that picked up the kind of that whole thing. I think Military Times picked up an article a couple months later about kind of what I was doing, what I was trying to do in grad school, what my hopes were to work with military and veterans, and how like my like philanthropic efforts outside of that as well, within trying to help military and veterans, as well as now currently and anyone with like mental health issues as well. Like mental health is a huge platform of mine. But yeah, it grew so exponentially that I like really could not keep up.
So you mentioned that working, sort of advocating for military support and services, PTSD, mental health in general is a big part of your platform. What are some of the kind of key areas that you are focused on in terms of like getting the word out or helping build support for those subjects?
Specifically, I'm interested in alternative therapies, specifically psychedelic therapies for PTSD and as well as traumatic brain injuries. So usages like LSD, psilocybin, ketamine, as well as done a lot of things for a lot of people. Ayahuasca, even ibogaine. There's a lot of different psychedelics. That is my specific special interest, if you want to call it, is basically funding trials for that. Yeah. So I kind of do everything under the radar. I don't talk about like my charitable stuff anymore because it's not as like I feel like it feels kind of cringe to be like, look at what I'm doing with my money. It feels cringe.
It's a fine line, right?
Yeah, and to kind of also to clarify, it's not like I'm not supporting military necessarily. I'm supporting people who have served, who are suffering from repercussions as a result of their time in the service, because I think they often get very much forgotten about. I know there's the VA healthcare system, but it only does so much.
Right, and there's probably, I would assume that there's a certain amount of like mental health care, especially with like rise in awareness about post-traumatic stress disorder, but not a lot that's being done in terms of like helping build like confidence and like the impact on relationships or intimacy or sexuality as a result of serving.
Because that is a huge thing as well. Like people aren't addressing sexuality after like in or post service as well. It's a huge issue.
Well, one of the things that like really motivates me within adult time and my work within like working with sex as subject matter is, and maybe it's just like growing up queer, marginalized, or like having my sexual identity be something that I've very like consciously grown up with and navigated. It strikes me that like so many of our issues as a society, Western society, have come from the fact that we just won't talk about sex. Like there's this, huge, the shame factor, you lock it up, you don't talk about it, and then we wonder why people are so fucked up. And if you connect, you can connect back so much to just like that lack of confidence and that lack of ability to communicate or to express yourself or feelings of shame. And it's, I try within the stories that I tell and the movies I make to like do things that are more relatable or are provocative in their subject matter, just to try to like spark conversations. Because porn itself is so scapegoated, is like you said, like being like the source of sin and addiction and behavior, when it's like, yes, we definitely as content can be something that people that are suffering from compulsions can overconsume, but we also can be a great source of kind of positive influence in modeling. Because where's the alternative,
Right. And I'm going to kind of do a little shout out to non-monogamy in general. Not that I think it's the end all be all as well, but it also with, because people often ask me like, oh, how is it being like non-monogamous, poly, whatever you want to call it. I hate like labels, but I fall under the umbrella of non-monogamy and have several partners that have serious, varying degrees of relationship and seriousness and commitments with. And you can't do that unless you have an insane level of communication, not just with your partners, but with yourself and realistic expectations of what you want out of something. I think a huge reason why we see marriages and relationships fail is because of a lack of ability to be honest with yourself about what you truly desire in terms of your fantasies and knowing how to bring them up without feeling like you're going to get backlash. And then it's also on the other person or other people to not backlash, if that makes sense. Knowing how to have conversations around sexuality is really, really difficult.
Yeah,
And
it's not instinctual. That's for sure.
No, it's
Yeah.
like people still giggle. Like, I think I've been in this world for too long, and every time I try to date outside, it's like everything's so like people are very sheepish and very like, I say vanilla, but it's almost just like, oh, like you don't use lube? What do you mean?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
like, okay.
When did you, so, you know, it's interesting because, you know, you talk proudly about kind of being non-monogamous and the benefits of that. When did you kind of come to realize that about yourself? Like, how did you venture into the world of non-monogamy?
It was more recently. So my partner, his name is Lev Lieben. He's also in the industry. We've been together for about 3 years. So he kind of came into my life as I already had the CAMI train going.
Yeah, he joined the CAMI train.
He joined the CAMI train. Yes, he's like, when I met him, I like told him about, I have an OnlyFans, and he had heard of OnlyFans, but didn't think it was like, he thought it was like a Mary Kay kind of like, like a Mary Kay millionaire kind of like
another MLM.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, like no one actually is successful in those. And I'm like, and then he met me. So for a while there, he was like my stunt cock. I had not done many boy girls really ever. I mostly started as a solo creator. And then he was my stunt cock. Once I learned that he could hold a camera very well and not breathe into it. It was very nice. I was like, thank you, skills. Yeah. It's like 101. How to film porn 101. Don't breathe into the mic.
Men, don't breathe.
Just don't breathe. So we shot together for a little bit as needed. We were living in like the middle of North Carolina at the time. And then I started venturing with girls, and that's kind of where I started having the safe container to explore with girls for the first time, was actually on camera, which was actually in retrospect a very beautiful and safe kind of way, because it took off the pressure of me having to overanalyze, like, am I actually into this? And then I can do that kind of exploration on my own, in my own
That's
time.
interesting, yeah. Yeah, so you didn't have to face this sort of internal and external pressures of it being like an identity crisis.
I had a little bit of like internalized homophobia with myself, but I was able to, that was okay. I was able to like not lash out on anyone. I was just like, I can just brush off like, it's just work. And then I'm like, it's not actually just for work. I'm like actually very gay.
And then you started to like it.
Yes.
And then the plan hatched and Timmy was born. Yeah.
Look, honey, the first step towards realizing your dream might be building a family. This is Grace, and she's gonna be able to take care of you no matter how sick you feel.
Where are you going?
I need to go shopping.
I already have everything prepared for you.
Hey, you can't drink that much caffeine. Honey, it's just not a good time. Okay, it's just not a good time.
Matthew, please.
It's just...
Matthew, just give me your hand! Give me your hand! Give it to me!
Get out of my way.
It's just fine.
Get out of my way.
What's your temperament like?
Worrying.
Not good.
I want you to make me mother.
Let's take some time to think about it.
I want you to make me mother.
What do you think?
I don't want you here anymore! I want you to make me a mother.
You're not supposed to be doing this. You know you're on bed rest.
I want you to make me a mother.
We're gonna have to make an incision in her perineum.
I want you to make me a mother.
There you go, Mama. You're doing such a good job.
I want you to make me a mother.
Laura, you are fully dilated, all right? It is time for you to start pushing.
I want you to make me a mother.
I know how sacred motherhood is. You're bringing a baby into this world. Isn't that just so special?
Yeah, but I think after a while of me just only shooting with like girls, and it didn't feel like it was enough for me or for my partner. And my partner kind of joined the industry as a solo male creator, built up his own following and socials, and then so we started shooting with other people individually and together. And we were like, it's different on camera, and we need something more of that. So we kind of just full sent it. We never read a book. We're not experts on non-monogamy. Like, I'm not a therapist. There's plenty of good books, like The Ethical Slut and all that. There's plenty of books about non-monogamy. I would not say I'm like a spokesperson for it, but we already had really good communication. So we were able to that's why we were able to full send it into non-monogamy fairly quickly, because it was how we were supposed to function all along. We just didn't have quite the wherewithal or verbiage or like language to know how to speak about non-monogamy to each other.
Yeah. So as someone who is I would consider myself to be quite a monogamous soul on the other side of the coin. What are the kind of greatest benefits that you find from your from being in open relationships?
Yeah, this is just for me personally because I think everyone functions differently, and I don't think it's like something that works for everyone. I think it's so individual. And for me, like I consider myself, I'm going to take this a little further, more of a relationship anarchist, which kind of just means like the needs of your relationships just kind of evolve as you evolve.
Yeah, but that's fair. I think that's a good way to look at it.
I think it's a good way because I know
healthy too.
I've been with my partner for 3 years, but we also know full and well if for some reason things don't work out, that it is like no harm, no feelings. We are going to be like involved in each other's life for the rest of our lives to some capacity, but we also know that things can evolve. And for me, it's not necessarily about having sex with whoever I want, although that's a huge part of why people think like non-monogamy is cool. It's also having those emotional connections with my friends, because I'm like, even it's like emotionally platonic in a sense, but sometimes it's not. I can be in love with my friends and have sex with them, but it's also, there's no assumption that it leads to like that A leads to Z, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah. You're not going to move in. You're not going to get married. It's not like the traditional trajectory of relationships. Because
that's all we're taught, and that's cool too. And I'm about it. I'm a fan of it too. But that doesn't need to turn out that way with everyone that I meet. So that's, for me, the greatest, the coolest thing about being non-monogamous is that you can just enjoy encounters for what they are, whether it's for a week, a year, or a lifetime. And maybe they're just really good friends, and there's someone to bounce ideas off of, or there's someone to give perspective on your life, is being able to detach from this like, oh, we need to do this next, and then we need to move in together, and then we need to have like kids, and then we need to like get the white picket fence and the golden retriever and the 3 cats, and
I do have 3 cats.
Oh, yeah.
And a corgi, not a golden retriever.
Oh, yeah, you do have 3. Yes.
Yeah, I do. Yes, I do have 3.
And a corgi, not a golden retriever though. So
yeah,
good.
No, but I did grow up with golden retrievers. But no, it's funny to hear you say that. I was sort of thinking as you were talking, just like to connect it back to like my own approach to stuff. And I think for me, I'm so like just personally, I associate physical intimacy with an emotional connection. So I've never been one who's been very good at like casual hookups or one night stands. Right. I've had 2 in my life, and they were like over like the same weekend. Like it's I don't have. It's not been something that I've ever gravitated towards because I sort of so closely associate the two. But I'm also someone who has such a one-track mind, and so I think ultimately I completely understand the idea of it and the benefits of it. I think I just can't imagine maintaining multiple streams of different kinds of relationships at the same time, which seems to me like a great superpower.
It can be a lot of plates to juggle. Like I'm not out here saying like, oh, I have 5 boyfriends and 3 girlfriends. Yes. I'm like, I would literally I'd rather like throw myself off a cliff.
Yeah. Well, that seems like it's a lot. There's a lot to manage.
It's a lot to manage, but I tend to try to attract people in my life that understand that I'm busy, and then they are also busy. They are running their own businesses, their own companies. Because then I'm not going to do this texting everyday thing. I'm like, good morning, how are you? No.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, what are you doing next weekend? Cool. Talk to you then.
Yeah.
That's more of my style. Yeah.
So, you became kind of like you said, an indie artist. You shot your own content for a good number of years. What interested you about coming in and shooting studio scenes and working with companies?
Yeah. I also want to touch on that question brought up something interesting for me about, because there's this kind of general animosity or perceived animosity between indie / OnlyFans creators and porn performers. Those are 2 totally different things, 2 totally different skill sets, 2 totally different jobs. And I think people try to equate. It's like I like to draw analogies to like sports almost. It's like it's like playing 2 different sports. Some people can play both those sports, basketball and baseball, but they're ultimately completely different sports. To be a pro performer on in the studio sense, it's a whole different ball game. You have to know how to act. Like I already knew how to run a business, but I'm shooting these 5 to 7 minute little clips in my bedroom.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different.
Yeah, it's true.
Than being than performing in a professional sense for a real big studio like Adult Time. And I wanted that challenge. I was like, I've done all I can do at this point on my own. I'm like, so I decided to move to LA and kind of see what the pro scene was all about, because I consider myself deeply creative. I like to act. I love to interact with people. I wanted to meet other people. And I also wanted that level of respect amongst my peers as well, to be able to say like, oh, I can kind of do a little bit of both.
Yeah, you
have more
can play
range.
both basketball and baseball.
Correct.
Yes.
I'm also not athletic at all.
But you're right in the sense that like it's not, even though there are many successful I'll say creators who create both independently and with studios or for studios. It's not like it's the same. It's not the same skill set, and it's not necessarily the same experience. And it's also totally fine if you're someone who does just one or the other.
Yeah.
But I think there's also, I feel like as someone who's produced content long enough, because, you know, I cut my teeth as a producer in like the 5 or so years before the OnlyFans boom. And then obviously the last 5 or so years have been kind of after the OnlyFans boom. And I'll say that the overall like performing community and just the value of the interactions in the last 5 years, because of the ability for either people to come from one side of the fence to the other or vice versa, or just like the uptick in like the whole business side of it, really.
Yeah.
Like that has brought so much value to the way that the professional side operates and the people who are in it. And I think that is, it's like the when you're responsible for running a business, it changes your perspective.
You feel you're invested. You have you have a financial vested interest, or some sort of vested interest in the overall success of the scene, for sure.
And likewise, if you're working with somebody who's coming in, who has that experience and also has that sets that tone, it also, like, you know, it's really weeded out a good number of the bad apples that are like, oh, I'm gonna just, you know, like shoot people out or take advantage of people, because people are like really on the same, it's two brands coming together. It's not like I'm hiring you for a gig and what I say goes, you know.
It's also along with social media too, because even several years ago, you could be a phenomenal porn performer or mainstream performer. I say mainstream in air quotes because mainstream usually means like mainstream TV and media, like Netflix, not that. Like a pro performer didn't have to have a social media presence. Now they all pretty much have to if you want to get booked, because that's kind of your, I call Twitter or X like LinkedIn for slutty people, for sluts. Like it is.
It's like your resume of what's going on.
CV, your portfolio, so to speak. So, because I know directors and people who cast are constantly looking at Twitter to see kind of what you're doing. So,
or in my case, you're like trying not to look at Twitter because there's just so much drama or so many buttholes.
It's a lot of buttholes.
But word of mouth is important. But definitely, I will agree that like when I hear somebody's name for the first time, I'm gonna go check out their socials, because that gives like a pulse on who they are, and what they do. But more kind of importantly, like, you got a sense of the personality,
right?
And it's not just like the number count of how many followers they have. No. It's like, oh, is this person like doing cool stuff?
Are they producing their own things? Or are they do they have creative ideas? Are they exactly?
How are they really are they running their own brand? Have they built this thing? Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Right. And that's a great kind of testament to what I would expect from meeting them. So, and I know with you, you and your partner shot content. You were doing a lot of solo content. What were some of your favorite solo? Because you got to get real creative in the solo world, right?
Yeah. God, I remember I was living in a really shitty apartment, and like there was like literally jail bars in the windows. This is in the middle of like North Carolina, middle of nowhere. I ended up getting this like really cheap fuck machine from Amazon for like $50, and I swear to God, it sounded awful. It sounded like something was breaking every time I used it. So I used that, and I also, because I used to strip, I had a pole in my apartment, so I'd literally just do like strip shows. I was like, that's all I know how to do. I don't know how to have sex on camera with myself. I barely knew how to have sex with myself in general. I barely knew how to masturbate. I was like, we're gonna learn how to masturbate properly,
which is in itself kind of like an awesome series for solo content.
It kind of is.
It isn't like exactly.
Yeah, not that I was like a virgin to playing with myself, but it was more just like, it was such a private thing for me that doing it in front of a camera was very daunting. and trying to make it look good. It took a long time for me to make it look good. I'm gonna be honest. It took several years for me to nail it. I think I got it finally, but.
And then when you started to shoot scenes with other creators, my team dug this up. Is this a true fact that one of your first boy-girl scenes was with Girthmaster?
That was actually my first scene.
Your very first scene?
My very first boy-girl outside of my partner, Lev. So
that's kind of jumping into the deep end, right? Like, he is known. His name says it all.
Yes. And my partner has a very, like, slightly above average penis. It wasn't, like, anything crazy. It's just very, like, it's not going to hurt like crazy. And then jumping into Girthmaster. So, yeah, my partner and I decided to work with people. And my partner flew to L.A. We were living in Denver at the time, I think. And I was like, I want to go to LA. I wanted to beat my partner. It sounds like so competitive because he already had this like collabs scheduled. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna beat him to it. Yeah. And I did about like one day. But I worked with Girthmaster and I adore Girth. He's such good people. And he also is another male performer that also started off solo. He's actually also faceless, just like my partner.
Yep.
And that's people like guys ask all the time, how do you get in the industry? I'm like, you don't get into it. You just kind of start it. And the best way to do that is building up your own brand on your own. Don't if you're trying to get in straight to do boy girl, like I feel like you're not going to get very far.
No, or it's not going to be there's a greater likelihood that it's going to end up in a situation that like not necessarily is negative, but you're not in the driver's seat for. And there's an important thing about like kind of like learning and growing at your own pace. And
it's also more stable if you're able to create income for yourself by yourself. True. As opposed to relying on collabs or like on like trade scenes. Yeah. You want to be able to have your like standalone brand as your core, and then you can kind of branch out from there.
So can you explain for anybody who doesn't know, who's watching, like what is the difference between like, shooting for yourself, collab/trade, and then like pro scenes?
Sure. So shooting for yourself, meaning like a solo? Or? Yeah. So that's either a solo or shooting for yourself. Sometimes for me, I also include my partner in with that because there's no travel costs associated with that. My boy girls with Lev cost $0 to make. We live together.
Yes, yeah. Convenient.
Very convenient. Yes. That's not a collab or collaboration, right?
You're a team in that sense.
We're already a team, existing team. A collab or collaboration, think of it as two brands, like your favorite coffee company is having a collab with an artist of some sort, and they're decorating the coffee mugs for the fall or whatever. That is a collab in a sense because it's two large brands coming together to create something, right? So same thing for a collab. It's typically the whole point of a collab or a trade scene. No one's getting paid on either end, and if there are costs, typically they're split, whether it's paying for a venue, paying for a videographer, photographer, etc. It's typically two somewhat equal-sized brands or people or performers that are coming together to create a sex scene. And they both co-own the content. They're both able to sell it for themselves, and they own it. There's no company involved, there's no studio, etc. And then you have pro scenes. Pro scenes, for the most part, are not owned by the talent. The company or director or producer, they are typically the ones who own the content. They pay the talent a rate for that scene, and that varies across the board. It's huge variance. Feel free to Google it, Reddit, but you'll find different numbers for that. But it's not typically a crazy amount. It's very like a nominal fee, but you do also get the exposure of shooting for that company. And that the talent has no rights to sell that content, but they're getting it's like modeling for a magazine, right? Right. You get paid your rate for that, but you don't own the magazine. You don't own those pictures that are going in the magazine, but your face gets to be in a magazine, so to speak. And
for you, like, was part of the decision to shoot pro scenes really for that marketing element, helping to expose
it was, and I think shooting pro is great for new performers, but I also think it's great for people who are looking to anchor themselves in the adult industry, which is what I was looking to do, because I was like, okay, well, I've made a little bit of a name for myself on the independent side of things, but like, how do I really cement this? And I feel like it's by shooting pro, because this is like out on the internet everywhere for free, and I already post a lot on like Pornhub for free too anyways, but that's how I cement myself. That's how you hope to become the Martha Stewart of porn.
The Martha Stewart of porn. I love it. So what is your favorite stuff to shoot for yourself now? Like, what's your favorite type of content to shoot?
I love role play. It's like super unhinged role plays, like step fantasy, but with a little twist. There was one that I came up with that was like where like I kind of co-created with someone that was accidentally fucking my stepbro at his grandpa's funeral.
Love it.
Yeah.
Right up my alley.
So it's like a somewhat realistic predicament to be in. I don't like to do like the normal tropes like stuck in the washer. I think it's really cheesy. I only like to say stepbro like once throughout the whole scene, but the rest of it is just about this like really unhinged storyline. There's another one I did that was like literally at a nude beach. I went like way out, far away. It was obviously adults only, but I went like way hiked away from the beach and did a role play of like cheating on my husband with his brother. There's another one I have coming out about my stepbro glazing my donut. I wanted him to take me out for donuts, and he did, but they only had like the really gross plain. Like, cake, like the cake donuts. So he glazed them for me with his cup, and then eat them.
There
so
you go.
yeah,
I love
unhinged, weird role play. Yes.
And from the professional scenes that you've shot, what have been some of the standout like scenes that you've done so far?
Well, obviously the Girls Way one that I shot here was awesome because Freya and Avery are just amazing performers. Like you can tell when like a girl really likes girls, it's magic happens.
That one I have to say, not to plug it too much, but my
I know.
hope is that by the time this pod airs, we'll have released that scene or like we'll time it. That was so much fun.
I was like, this is why I do this. It was days like that. I was like, this is why I want to do like pro porn. It's not just for like the little scenes here and there, but not all studios are the same, but for here and specifically with you, there is this like crazy Hollywood aspect and like vibe to it where it really feels like a production. It's like, wow, this is like, I'm like really doing something. I'm really helping create something. And the reason why it was so good is because everyone was able to co-create and put in their like input on certain things, and everyone listened to everyone. Everyone wanted to do everyone's ideas, not in like we'll do everything, but it all like was very cohesive. We all collaborated our ideas, and that's when a scene is the best. It's not just when I don't want to just sit there and read lines. Like I can do that all day. I'm great at reading lines, but I'm like, I want to put my own personality into it, and you allowing us to have that space was so cool because it made it really fun.
That's how I like to create too. You know, that's what drew me into producing, just that sort of vibe of like I grew up doing a lot of theater, right? So like just the idea of like it feels like a theater troupe. We get together, we're like doing a production, and everybody's involved, and you're gonna get such a better final piece if everybody like is able to shine in it. And the three of you were hilarious. The scenario, for those who are curious, what do we call the episode? It was like straight seduction therapy.
Yes.
And the reason why is because straight seduction as a keyword is one of the most popular keywords on adult time, especially for fans of lesbian porn, which are often guys.
Hello, scientists.
Hello.
We see that you're making some progress on the transformable android. We want to take it in a different direction. We want you to make them sexier. Have you thought about breasts?
Guys don't want breasts. They want personality.
Yeah, they want personality. We are ready to thrust you into the future with our latest, greatest, most salacious invention yet. The dolls.
Androids, big slay.
Okay.
Avery, answer me at once.
We don't have time for this. We have to find the dolls immediately and shut them down.
And so the idea of like lesbians turning straight girls gay is like an old trope as old as time.
Yeah.
We all love a good straight seduction.
Yep.
And so I was like, all right, well, we had recently, like had become such a popular category that we actually made it, we made it a category on the site. And I'm like, we got to make a scene. Yeah. I was like, what scene are we going to make? I have these three wonderful people. I had a feeling like I was like, all right, Avery and Freya would make a really great, like, disgruntled lesbian couple.
Yep.
And I was like, I need an excuse to get CAMI in here because I wanted to work with you really bad. I'm like, I knew that you would have fun playing so basically this lesbian couple, 7-year itch. They're blaming each other for their marital problems. One issues the other an ultimatum. You better fix this. You better spice things up.
With a unicorn.
By finding an unsuspecting straight girl and bring her in, and we're gonna seduce her like we used to back in the old days.
Yes.
And you got to come in and be the unsuspecting, but very curious and consensual naive
I was
straight
like,
girl.
sure,
Yeah.
okay. Never done that before.
which led to like, it was very funny, but it was like just also great to see how well you all like, you can always tell, like for me, it's so great when you leave the day and you can tell everybody had a really good time. Mm-hmm. And you all definitely delivered that.
Yeah, you can tell when people like really love doing this too. It's
Yes,
like,
yep. So what beyond that scene, which was an amazing scene, I can't wait for everybody to see it. What couple other like highlights for you so far in your pro career?
Yeah, I had my debut with Browsers, and obviously like A.L.L.S is an amazing company to work with. I weirdly enough, I was on Extra a few weeks ago for a digital playground set. Oh my god, like that was amazing. It was a whole feature. I was like, wow. I was like starstruck the whole time, just over the whole production of it. Like, that is such a cool feeling and such a cool position to be in, to be even just an extra. And I had a great time that day because ultimately I was able to learn. And you kind of do have to work your way up into this industry. Like, I know I've been doing my own thing for a while, but pro is a whole different ballgame. It's a whole different scene that you still have to kind of earn your way through a bit. You don't just come into it like hot and heavy, shooting for all the big like companies, or you shouldn't at least expect that. So even just being on Extra on that set was very eye-opening. I got to learn. I got to kind of pitch myself in a sense with a little bit of acting, and they're like, "Wow, Cami, you're like really good." There was also a moment during our scene for girls where you like almost thought I was about to call cut, but I was like, no, I was like in it. I was like doing my bit.
Yeah, there was a moment.
Like,
where there was a moment where you were sort of, your character was supposed to be like a little bit hesitant. And you were so convincing that I was just about to be like, all right, let's pause. Is everything okay?
Are you okay?
Yeah.
I'm like, and I'm glad you didn't. I was like, no, it was just part of like what I was doing.
I saw you quickly rolled back into the, like you quickly carried on as the character. I'm like, okay, things are fine. But yeah, it was convincing. Let's just say that.
I'm like, good.
Yeah.
I did my job right.
You did, yeah. What's on your porn bucket list? Like
I really want to shoot a gangbang, but I want to shoot it my way. Okay. I want a very fantasy, like, to the female fantasy of a gangbang,
which is,
I think it's a goddess. It's like a deity, however you say that word. Like she's like a goddess, and she's the one being worshipped, right, or catered to. Very like grapes being fed to me vibe. Maybe not that per se, but that's what I've always wanted to do, is create this really beautiful gangbang that's like for the like femme.
Love it. Love it.
Always want to do that.
Awesome. If you could do any adult time project, what would it be?
Oh, meaning like for a certain like site or
site
series? I would love to do honestly something. I know Jane did one and it inspired. Jane Wilde did a very cool one about like kind of her history. And I think I have such a weird backstory of my life. I think it'd be really cool to turn my life story as well into a porn, into a very interesting movie of like being in a cult and like going to these like stupid business meetings, and I'm like, I don't want to be here. I'm just horny, and I go home and watch porn, and I get like my hand slapped, and then I get sent to slut conversion therapy. I think.
Well, okay, really so fun. This whole slut conversion therapy thing.
Yeah.
I was gonna tell you that just sounds like an episode of something.
Something.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, I didn't know this about you before that, but I have an idea for, it would be a lesbian film next year, but I have an idea for a film that I'm calling Escape from Camp Conversion. So there you
very
go.
Cool.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. We'll see. Rapid fire questions.
Yes, I'm ready.
All right. So these are our personalized rapid fire questions for Cami Strella as my team.
They've spelled it out for you.
So spell out for me because they're amazing. So what was the most surprising porn myth that you found out that isn't actually true?
Fluffers. I feel like that's number one.
Yes. Fluffers, just to clarify, they may exist, but they don't exist on sets.
They exist on only one set, but they're like hired talent, and they just call them the fluffer, but they're very much a part of the scene.
Yes. But otherwise, you're not going to expect to see fluffers. If you're on a set and someone asks you to fluff, that is not what you're supposed to be doing.
Don't do that. Don't ask girls to. Yeah, weird.
Yes.
For talent to. That is your job.
Do you remember the best orgasm you've ever had?
Yeah. It was like maybe 3 months ago, actually. And it was like the first time, not one of the first times. I don't know. I think it happened earlier in my relationship. It was the first time I ever cried after orgasming, which is not uncommon for me because of the release. It is very like normal. I want to say common. It's a very normal reaction to coming. For anyone of any gender, it's like it's such a like, this crazy build up, and like your body's almost like really tense. Sometimes it's like feels like you're like in a car crash, and then everything it just gets released. And crying for the first time, and I was like, oh my god, that was crazy. So I remember that vividly, and that was probably like a year ago.
Yeah,
the first time I did that.
It's weird too because like you're crying, which we so associate with like feelings of sadness or fear, but like you're very happy and but you
laughing.
Can't stop crying.
I was like cracking up. I was like, I almost like pissed my pants. I was like,
you're like, what's happening to me? Yeah, no, I feel you. What is, if you were going to make a sex tape with one mainstream celebrity, who would it be?
Oh my god. I feel like, who's the guy from the show, the Bear?
Oh, the guy who was also on Shameless, right?
Yes.
Jeremy Allen White?
Yes, Jeremy Allen.
I get that.
Yes.
Yeah, he's pretty hunky.
Once I saw those Calvin Klein photos, I was like, woo! Yes.
You know, he's a handsome boy. Yeah. What's your best blowjob tip?
Get Botox in your masseters.
It's the best answer that I've ever heard. I'm sorry. That is, but once again, you're delivering the facts, CAMI Straya. What does that mean?
So I have TMJ. I clench my jaw, so I have like really. I also have the world's smallest mouth. I give great blowjobs, but if you're really girthy or sorry, you might hit some back of my teeth. But getting Botox in your masseters, which is like a medical, it's just shot on either side of your like cheek, basically to relax that muscle where you clench or grind at night. Does crazy things. It relaxes so much more, so my mouth is able to last longer, so much longer. So
have
that
you
is
ever
my
had
secret.
like the jaw lock open?
Yeah.
Which is like one of my greatest fears.
Yeah.
I
never want to be caught eating pussy, and I'm like,
yeah. My wife had that happen once. This is pre us, but had that happen once, and like had to go to the hospital and stuff. And ever since she's telling me
mine wasn't
that
bad. It eventually
came back. Oh, it's like greatest fear. Terrible situation. What's the best way to slide into your DMs if there is a best way to slide into your DMs?
Ooh, I would say the best way to slide in my DMs is telling me, like, okay, the worst way to slide in my DMs is telling me that you saw me in public. And you're like, you're wearing this. I was like, okay, this is not Craigslist misconnections. Yeah. The best way to slide in my DMs is to say something that you like about my personality. Like, oh, hey, I love that your work you're doing with veterans. I love the work that you're doing with mental health. That I am such a sapiosexual and demisexual. And I'm like, yes, appeal to like my brain and my heart first, and then the pussy will follow.
And then finally, my dear, do you have any sex hot takes to educate our listeners, our viewers today?
My sex hot take would be that sex is not the end all be all. I know. I think there's so much more to life than just sex, but it's a huge part of it, I think. It's a huge part of human sexuality, but it also doesn't need to be, it's not a performance. Here's a better hot take.
Timmy's coming out.
I don't know why I'm holding him like this.
Yes.
It is okay to smile and laugh during sex.
Yes.
Sex is supposed to be fun. I get so much criticism for like laughing or smiling during like my sex scenes, especially on Pornhub, and I'm like, do you want me to look like I'm having a miserable time? No, because I'm having a great time, and I'm giggly, so.
Laugh and smile.
They're not making fun of. They're not making fun of you. Like they're not making fun of you if you're having sex. If you're having sex with someone who's laughing, it's not. They're not making fun of you.
And most people want to see people having a good time.
Yes.
So have a good time. Well, CAMI, I had a good time.
This is a really good time.
This is a really.
And we're smiling, laughing.
We're smiling, laughing. This is a really good time. Yes. I love your energy from the moment we first met
clicked.
On set.
Yeah.
I can't wait to do more with you. I have lots of cool work come out, but you're kick-ass. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your experience and all of that with us today. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.
All right, woohoo! We did it.